Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to today's water cooler chat, where we talk about all things Livepeer, whether it's delegating, orchestrating, gatewaying, transcoding, anything to do with AI inference or the Livepeer network. We're here to ask questions and get answers. So we got a couple topics ahead of us: treasury payment stream contract, an NVIDIA DLL patching restriction, the LLM treasury proposal, increased ticket errors, and issues with orcs losing streams without any notification. So let's jump right into let's jump right into the transcoding side of the topics. That seems to be a bit of a trend, and then later we'll go into the treasury side. So, Pawn, you saw some ticket errors. Why don't you kick us off with what you've been seeing, and then I can jump into. And then I think Jason has a kind of a related issue. So, Pawn, why don't you kick us off with what you're seeing?
Yeah, so lately I've noticed quite a few increased ticket errors. So my issue now that I'm dealing with is expired ticket, basically. So it was some kind of error and it's got another couple of tickets queued up. So I'm just gonna be trying to clear that off now. So I'm just wondering, is anyone else seeing increased ticket errors or not cash tickets for some kind of reason?
Are you seeing these errors on your dashboard, like your Grafana board?
Yeah, at the moment I need to sort the dashboard out, but yeah, it was quite few increased yesterday. And I updated to the newest version and it messed up my dashboard as well for some kind of reason.
And
So
did you?
you see the ticket show up on your dashboard, but it doesn't go through? Is that my understanding right?
Yeah, so
Fun?
if you're gonna look at my dashboard now, I have two tickets in London and we just haven't been cashed out yet. Well, not cashed out, redeemed, let's say that.
Right. And if you go in and look, are they were they created on some, is the date wrong on them if you look in the database?
Yeah, I'm
Because
just
this came
opening
up
it
a while
now.
back, but I don't remember what the solution was or how it fixed it, but for a while it was going around where quite a few people were getting that.
Yeah, so the two tickets that's standing there was created today about 3 hours ago.
Okay,
For
so
any,
they were actually created today though.
and the
Sorry,
gas
go
Yeah.
ahead.
is pretty high right now, so maybe if someone wants to check that, if you have like a maximum gas limit set, because it's
Mm,
I think I think our Vitrum gas is like now 0.3, 0.0351, so it's like 10 times higher, I
no,
think.
no, I don't have a gas limit set.
Okay.
Do you not have enough? Do you have enough gas in your wallet?
Yeah, I do definitely.
I mean, I don't think it's an issue nowadays, but I mean, maybe you're
No,
you're
no,
cruising
no,
on 0.001 ETH, and it's like, nah, you're not gonna quite make
no.
it.
I think I'm just gonna check it in a second, but I think I got about whopping amount of $30 in it worth of ETH. So
Hmm. And have you tried to redeem it manually?
no, I haven't tried to redeem it manually. If anyone could share the guide, it would be great. Never had to do it.
Oh boy, this is going way back.
Is it?
I've manually redeemed a ticket 3 years ago
Yeah.
on L1. Basically, you you don't actually manually do it. Like, it's not like you take the data and you put it into Arbascan or anything. What you do is you open up the SQLite database, and then um you like flag it that it hasn't, you flag it to just like have it try again, I guess. And then when you launch the node, it just immediately tries it.
All right. Well, I have it open now. Let's see, how can you flag it?
I don't know about flagging it, but I just know that um it's been a long time, so this has not really been an issue in the last while, I guess. The problem is I'm not actually tracking my redemption errors, so that's probably something I should re-add to my dashboard.
Okay, fair enough. So if anyone has a guide handy or knows how to do it, I would appreciate that.
Is anyone else seeing ticket redemption errors?
No, but
I have
if
not noticed
there's
it,
like
but
a ticket that's stuck being tried to redeem, you could manually remove it from the database.
Yeah, the database is clear except up to them 2 tickets in the last couple of hours.
Have you?
Right, but is one blocking the queue?
Sorry, say it again.
Is one blocking the queue? Because ticket redemptions, they happen in a queue. So if the first one doesn't get redeemed and gets retried with an error every time, then the queue won't progress. And you want to manually redeem that ticket probably, or try to do so and remove it from the database so it's no longer in the queue. And then your ticket should process again as normal. It occurred like a few years ago for some people.
Yeah, that's fine. I can remove it, but I would like to try to redeem it first. Just trying to figure out how.
Yeah, if we could probably chat about that in Discord offline.
Yeah, that's fine. I appreciate that.
It's been a while for me, but I can help you look into it.
All right, thank you.
And Pod, maybe if you do get it successfully, kind of figure it out how to either manually redeem or remove the ticket so that the queue can continue. Maybe you can do a post for the rest of us on how to troubleshoot that.
Yeah, I can try to do something. It should be helpful for everyone. Yeah.
Because I believe you have this round and the next round to redeem a ticket. I believe you have
Yeah, I do believe there is a 2-round limit, as far as I know.
Cool. It's anyone else have any questions around ticket redemption errors or around that topic that they've seen or need clarification on? I also wonder if the orchestrator or the broadcaster, or I guess we call it gateway now, has the ability to send some sort of like invalid ticket, like nonce or something that messes up the orchestrator, that doesn't allow it to redeem correctly. So
Yeah, those shouldn't affect it because those are non-retriable errors, but there is a differentiation between retriable and non-retriable errors, if I remember correctly. But I don't know how they classify exactly or which one are retriable exactly, or that I don't remember. I have to look into it.
right. Well, and also I believe there's a new flag in the newest release, 0.78, where it says like no max gas price, or what was that? What was the flag they added? Is that for this type of situation? Like if gas were to spike? Yeah, I don't know. I gotta look into that. Either way, we could probably continue on. I'll leave that for Pawn and Nico to kind of chat offline and see what kind of solution they can come up with, and then maybe provide clarification for other people that might have the same issue. It's awesome. So thanks, Pawn, for bringing it up. Good topic.
No worries, thank you.
I just found I found an old post. Actually, it was by me on how to manually redeem a ticket. I think this was from L1, but I'm gonna copy it and paste it in there. And Pond, you can check it out later.
Yeah, thank you. I'll try it out now.
Cool. Okay. We're gonna move on to the next topic, which is Jason's, and then following that, we can Nico, if you don't mind, we can jump into kind of the treasury proposal and some conversations around that topic, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
Okay, awesome. So Jason, you were seeing an issue with orc streams, transcoded streams cut off without any errors. Can you tell us what you're seeing and what you're trying to clarify what you're seeing?
Yeah, before the update where there was like a rotating stream, I think. I don't know, Josh was talking about it, but like after before that there was like it would just crash, and I think it was a new release 27.28, I think, or 7.728. Yeah, the newest release, I see a drop, but then when I check the errors, there is none. So I was thinking like, is there a silent error? Or like, what sort of error is that? And then I was talking to Papa Bear, and then he said like, there were some other orchestrators as well, who had the same drop. But like I wanted to just wanted to ask whoever in the like chat if they had like a sudden drop. It would drop from like, I don't know, like 10 to like 2 or 1, and then it would slowly pick up. It wouldn't restart. It doesn't restart the transcoder itself or the orchestrator, just the streams. They just like drop off like from a cliff. So just wondering if anyone else has the same error, or it's just me or something weird.
Well, aside from me having that happen the other day, I have Pond's dashboard open from just looking at just because we were just mentioning it, and I see that it looks like the same thing happened to him maybe 10 minutes ago or so. So
I've restarted my yes. Sorry, I've restarted my node.
you restarted it. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so you restarted and your ticket still didn't redeem. I was going to say that was another thing to try, but I didn't want to tell you to do that when you had a good chunk of streams happening. So yeah, you might just have to stick with that. That's the script I posted in the chat. Okay, yeah, I thought you just suffered the same error there. Yeah, and just to say the same thing Jason did. There was no errors or anything that I saw in my logs. Nothing, restarted, and it just continued on. So not really much not much to go off of there. What happened?
Because I didn't have this error before the new updates. I was wondering like if something got introduced, like the bug or something. But
I mean, I've had errors with the new release that I haven't really dug into yet, and I already pushed it to my pool. And before I even pushed it, I started testing it, and I was already getting tons of errors. So I was like, oh, I think I pushed this too quick because I didn't do much testing. I thought it would be stable. So I'm not sure if that new release has changed a lot. I think it has, though, hasn't it? The actual transcoding pipeline has been kind of changed. Jason, if you go back to the 7 point, the previous release, is it still stable? Are you not seeing this, or kind of what's your...
I updated because there was like what is this stream revolving error or whatever that was, because it would just crash the whole transcoder, and then I would lose like everything, and it wouldn't pick up for a while. So I had to update it just so that it wouldn't crash. Now it falls off a cliff, but then it doesn't restart. Like it goes to like a 1 or 2, and then it slowly picks up back again. So I don't know. Like, should I go back and have it crash, or just like stay here and then have like a cliff drop off? I don't know. I'm like really confused. So.
Are you
But
able...
yeah, I didn't have
One other thing
this
I'll add,
exact error before, so.
it is strange that it seems to hit like several orcs at the same time. I don't know if that gives anyone any ideas, but it is odd that it like when Jason posted the other one, I noticed that it had happened to, I think it was like me, Authority Null, and Elite Encoder, and Jason all within like the same minute. So maybe
Yeah,
a
I'm
clue
just
if
not.
anyone can figure it out.
Yeah, I'm not really sure, guys. But are you monitoring your encoder and decoder usage as well? It's massively. You can look on my Grafana dashboard. My encoders are basically getting hammered constantly, nearly at 100%. So when you run out of encoder capacity, it crashes.
Are those
I don't think.
VODs?
I'm constantly monitoring the encoder and decoder. I don't think that's the issue for my crash, at least.
Yeah, I would say my encoder is running like maxed out pretty much all day, and it, I don't think that I don't seem to see a correlation of if my encoder is maxed out. I just either will drop a stream or not get new streams, but I haven't seen where like my encoder running full speed just like automatically causes any sort of crash, at least on my end. But yes, my encoders definitely, those all the GPUs in that region are just working real hard.
Well, Jason, you're the one experimenting and doing some trailblazing. So if you want to keep kind of testing and report some feedback you get, be happy to hear about it. Otherwise,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It's I can't say I have the same issue, but
All right.
yeah, no, that's good. If anyone else has sees this as well, yeah, please chat about it in the orchestrator chat and see if we can continue to make it a bit more robust. But yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bud.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump back on the ticket era. Someone just pointed out that ticket is 2 days old, even if it's been created a couple hours ago. So the round on ticket is 3494, and we are at 3496 at the moment. But creation date is created at today, a couple hours ago.
Wait, so there's a discrepancy between what round it can be
Yeah, that
redeemed
was
in?
like
It
the
was
round number doesn't match the date and the round creation date don't match up. Like the sorry, the creation date was today, but the round that it shows was like 2 days ago, right, Pon?
Yeah, correct.
Something like that.
Oh, so if
Yeah, that was happening in the past. No, I was gonna say that was happening in the past, but I don't know what. I don't think anyone ever figured out what was causing it. I don't know why it stopped happening, but it was fairly widespread at the time. It was several months ago.
do you is it unable to redeem just because it's an old ticket?
Yeah, it classes as old ticket because it's over two rounds old,
Right.
but it just been created a couple hours ago.
So you literally don't have the ability to redeem it even if you wanted to. And that's maybe what's clogging up
Nope.
the queue.
Yeah, so just got to delete it from the database now.
Shouldn't the software like just like delete the old ones or just skip them anyway? Like I feel like shouldn't be attempting to redeem something that's like 2 rounds old. Well, either way, it's good information. It seems like you figured out the problem.
No, it's not me. It's Brad. What strikes again?
Brad strikes again. Where's Brad?
Yeah. Brad found a problem again.
Good old Brad. Cool. Okay. Well, as for the ticket redemption and the stream cutoffs, please just keep us posted in the orchestrator chat. I think those are good things to keep an eye on and make sure that it doesn't get out of control with other orchestrators. Okay, let's continue on to the next topic, which is actually the LLM treasury proposal. I believe that's what we're calling it. Yeah, Livepeer LLM SPE. Nico is here with us. Nico is the proposer of the treasury proposal. Nico, do you want to kick us off with kind of what, for those that don't know about the proposal, do you want to kick us off what the proposal is, kind of what it entails, and an overview of the treasury proposal itself?
Yeah, sure. For those that weren't on the last treasury call, it's a proposal to add LLM pipelines to the Livepeer network with a product-oriented roadmap. So the goal is to build demand for this as fast as possible, and then build on top of that, and basically see what the needs of the demand are that we can build, and prioritize engineering according to that. I think it's a very important addition to the network, even though it's not directly media oriented. You know, we all know LLMs. I think most of us use them, if not daily, at least probably once a week. I myself use it daily. And I also think they can be an important building block for creating like applications that exists of multiple layers of models. And LLMs can really be a useful tool to optimize a lot there. And it doesn't always have to be large LLM models. They can also be small ones to do, you know, small optimizations. I didn't actually know that this was on the roadmap for the AI SPE or for the subnet SPE itself. So that was kind of a coincidence. I just thought it would be a great addition. So some work went into it already. Well, a lot of it is already finished. It's quite scalable. I've tested it myself quite thoroughly with up to Llama 3.1 with 70 billion parameters. So it's quite a large model, which requires, I think, like 120 gigabytes of VRAM. The goal is to, you know, be able to compete with centralized providers and their models in due time, but that means running even larger models for purely, you know, chat GPT like applications or the like. But there's, like I mentioned, there's also a use case for smaller models. And the implementation of the pipeline has already led to, you know, some inspiration for the other pipelines, because one of the big requirements for running these large models is distributing it across multiple GPUs. And for other pipelines, that could be useful in the future as well to run larger models that can compete with it. So yeah, we've been basically doing some research that could also benefit the other pipelines. And for the LLM pipeline, since it's such a heavy pipeline, the goal is to continue looking and researching optimizations. So that's also part of what the budget for that pipeline itself is still intended for. Yeah, that's a quick summary. There's like the proposal has a demo application available. If you want to try out the API, I can give you access. Just send me a DM. Yeah, any questions? Happy to answer those.
Yeah, definitely. I think quite a few people have questions and what, you know, want to dive into this amazing opportunity within the network. I'll start off with a couple questions just to get the ball rolling. The LLM SPE, for those that don't know, SPE stands for Special Purpose Entity. Who is on the team of this SPE? Is it just yourself, or are there other members that are going to be helping you develop this?
Yeah, so it's currently listed as LivePool, and I do have a backend developer that helps me out with originally LivePool, and he's been on holiday for the last few weeks. So the LLM pipeline was just me, but I have like an additional maintainer that could help with this. Yes, it didn't list him as like a founder of the or like Genesis member of the SPE, and we also welcome, you know, anyone to contribute. The SPE is not like a closed off entity. It's meant to grow in time and have more core contributors. Whether that's existing community members or new developers that are brought onto resources that the SPE has, that's kind of, you know, still out there.
So what I hear is the SPE was created by LivePool, yourself, and those resources that LivePool, you know, has maintaining, you know, you have a maintainer and other people helping you. Those are going to be, you know, contributors of this proposal. Is there opportunity for other people to get hired or be compensated for joining the SPE, or is it going to be just more in house and you'll take on the task?
No, definitely not in house. So the goal is like we'll definitely contribute to this as LivePool, and the LivePool team has its own resources that we've been contributing to other public parts of the repository, like the remote AI worker, for example, and we can continue to do so for the LLM pipeline. But the SPE itself, it's its own funding. It's open for people to join. So if anyone is interested in contributing to this in like how do I say this, a more elaborate capacity. So just not like a bounty here and there or an issue here and there, but really like if you think you can contribute really heavily to this SPE, whether it be in the form of development or developer relations, marketing, growth, product roadmap, whatever, reach out and we can definitely talk about that to be a core SPE member. And there's also a budget for, open contributions from people that are not necessarily core members of the SPE, but are making valuable contributions to the improvement of the LLM pipeline or its peripheral public goods. And that could also be other SPEs like the AI Subnet SPE itself, or just individual community members or external people outside of the community.
Very cool. So yeah, you kind of cross pollination between other SPEs like the AI SPE that have similar alignments, or outside contributors that just might have an expertise or time in this, can definitely reach out and look for contribution is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And there are, of course, a few areas listed in the proposal that are like still key areas to explore. One of them is like more like distributing larger models across different hosts, which I think is like a different research piece, but also important for scalability. And for those high priority things, yesterday someone mentioned LoRa support or QLoRa support for kind of retraining and optimizing LLM models. If they are in high demand and highly prioritized, we can actively look into hiring external resources to fill those needs. So not just a passive approach.
Right. And for those that are listening and have questions along the way, please write them down. So when I get to the end, please chime in your questions. Another item on your proposal is this item, potential demand impact, and you've given a little table of potential demand that can be generated on the network. Is the goal of the SPE solely to drive demand, or is it to offer a more robust offering of the network? What is kind of the primary motive of the proposal?
Well, I'd argue that those two kind of go hand in hand. It's obviously like if we're adding like a capability to the network, I think it's because we think it can drive additional demand or significant demand. Given the importance of LLMs, I think it's a foundational addition to the lineup, but like I think the primary priority and goal here is to get short-term demand on the network, given the current popularity and how widespread LLMs are.
Very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I think most people are excited to drive demand onto the network. I think that motivates a lot of orchestrators and stakeholders.
Yeah, that's why I also didn't want to leave the SPE at, hey, we'll create a pipeline and add support for more models, but also included like initial tools for developers to easily build on this, or for end users to use it directly.
Very cool. Let's continue down the proposal. The prior work has been done, so it looks like you have a working kind of demo. Can you tell us a bit about the work that you've done so far, what your demo is, and kind of how you plan to continue on with it?
Yeah, it's kind of a ChatGPT clone with all the similar features, with some small differences, but you can have long form dialogues in it. Your conversations are kept in history. There's a notion of a historical conversation very similar to ChatGPT. It's to showcase what sort of it's capable of right now, but also it's planned to be its own product, but I'll put several parts out of it to create an open source example for it as well. But it is kind of like full feature ready. It's like free to use at the moment. You can log in with like your wallet or Web2 logins. It is only a little bit limited in terms of the free tiers that it runs on at the moment for like the database, and it runs upstairs in my home office. But I'll move it to a data center so bandwidth and latency doesn't become an issue. But other than that, it's fully there. It uses the OpenAI API that we wrote for this as well. So it's a full end-to-end off-chain demo of the LLM pipeline, but it could be put on-chain basically tomorrow. But I'm waiting for some PRs to be merged maybe.
Great. Let's move on to milestones and maintenance and time to complete. What are the milestones that you believe would be a fork in the stake? It's finished. At what point would you achieve that? How long do you think it'll take? And then what are your commitments to maintaining this, if there is any? Kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good question. So the goal is the plan I have in mind is currently like roughly for a year, and in that year, we want to accomplish being able to run models that are that can compete with top applications, centralized providers today. So that means being able to run even larger models. The second thing that we still want, and that is also, like I mentioned, is LoRa support, and also having that included in the API and the Go Livepeer and whatnot. We think like in terms of development and research, the funding that is asked in the proposal should give us at least a year to do that, roughly a year. I think it's like hard to plan longer ahead than that, especially in a fast moving space. In terms of maintenance, we'll obviously keep adding to this ourselves. Livepool itself, I think, can benefit greatly from the LLM pipeline, given that if we can achieve the distributing very large model across different hosts, then it could maybe become like a big revenue driver for pools, not only Livepool, but other public pools or private pools as well. So we do have an incentive to definitely keep maintaining this and make sure that there's always sufficient demand going through the LLM pipeline. That's why the application and the API would also have price tiers in due time, so that the LLM can partially fund itself in the future, and it's not solely dependable on treasury funding. In terms of maintenance, outside of the core contributors of the SPE, there is the bounty program, which is indeed in terms of funding requests, I think it has been mentioned that it might be quite a lot. I tend to agree, but it would be for both growth as well as maintenance. Maybe like even some hackathon prizes. There's a Livepeer AI hackathon in September. I think it would be great if the LLM SPE itself could give a small bounty for an application or two applications built using this new pipeline. So those are all things that would be funded by that bounty thing, including a big part of maintenance. But the development roadmap is for a year, roughly, give or take. If we can complete it sooner, the better. And if we still have resources, we can do more than that. Yeah, I hope that sort of roughly answers questions in terms of timeline and things to come.
Yeah, excellent. No, it's a great description, and And I love how you're sharing a lot more that's like not necessarily in the proposal itself, but also like this idea that you could give away bounties. Oh no, I think bounties are listed in the proposal as options. So it's a great breakdown of where the funds will be going. Speaking of funding, this will be kind of my last question, then I'll open it up to everyone else to jump in with questions. So the last item would be the funding request. So you've already mentioned, you'd use the funding for all of various different, bounties and hiring help and maintaining and infrastructure costs and these kinds of things. I guess what do you plan to do with the funds is the ultimate question. You've already laid out some of it, but what have we missed? What have we not covered? And then the second is, how do you view the funds? Are you going to be using them as ownership, where you're going to be hoping to keep it for people to stake? Are you going to be liquidating it instantly to pay in US dollar terms? Kind of what's your view on the LPT request itself?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think there will always be some costs that an SPE has to cover in terms of dollars and has to liquidate some of its LPT for. I'm of the opinion that you try to do it as little as possible, and I believe firmly in staking your funds and trying to be self-sustainable that way and managing your funds accordingly. So in terms of spending, like I mentioned, we kind of envision this roadmap to be a year, and that also includes for the bounty program and the subsidization of demand. And we can evaluate after 1 year, how much funds is left. Is it still worth to subsidize this demand? Does it need subsidization? If not, we can return those funds to the treasury. Those are all things that we can take into account as we evaluate on a quarterly basis. We'll also include the spending of the bounty program in there, the spending of the subsidization of demand at sort of a network price for requests that is fair yet competitive. For the other funds, they will mainly be used for development and research, mainly towards the goals that I mentioned, more distributed setups and LoRa support.
Okay, so are you planning to stake any of the LPT that you would receive?
Yeah. So at least, I think at least the bounty fund and the subsidization funds should be staked. Because I think initially, obviously, demand will be probably a little lower, and maybe the SPE won't spend as much on bounties and SPE, but it could then, draw from those additional staked assets in the future, or use the staking income depending on how high it is to fund those things.
Yeah, well, with something like a 50% return on LPT right now, staking can probably continue the funding on much further if it was just generating its own income to continue distributing and maintain the SPE. That's a really interesting. Yeah. That's really
no, we're on the same page there, definitely. Yeah.
In that case, I mean, what is your preference for who the SPE would stake to? Do you have a preference on that? Would it just stake to live pool just to keep it internal and non-biased, or fully biased, however you want to look at it?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I haven't considered if funds are staked, who they're staked to. On the other hand, given the size of it, I don't think in terms of shifting network equity across orchestrators, it doesn't really matter that much. I think for the SPE itself, it probably just wants the highest return on its staked funds. I guess that would be the most rational thing.
Cool. Okay, I'd like to open it up now for people to have questions. I know there's a couple questions in chat. We'll start with audio questions if anyone wants to jump in and ask Nico a question. Please please speak up now.
Less question, more comment. I wanted to verify what Nico was saying about for the hackathon and for like AI pipelines, it would be super helpful to have the LLM online in Livepeer AI. So that is something we're hopefully looking towards. Maybe Rick can give more details, but yeah, it definitely is. There is definitely like potential demand for that from the hackathon and from the startup program. So yeah, I just wanted to put in that piece of information.
Just as people are adding questions and comments, I will link back to some comments I wrote out last night in a thread that Rick opened up for the LLM discussion for the Treasury proposal. Just a bunch of points that I had, what I liked, what I didn't like. All in all, I think it's going to pass. But there were some concerns that I have and some things that I think could have been clearer in the proposal itself that ultimately led to my decision to vote against this proposal. So feel free to check that out. I laid everything out, and Nico's response is in there as well.
I see quite a bit written here. Are you comfortable sharing the overview of your comments, or would you just prefer people to read it and digest it for themselves?
It's best to read it, but I'm happy to discuss it if there are any specific questions. It's really focused on the funding asks and the deliverables, and my thoughts that based on the proposal outline, the request for this amount of funds is not exactly warranted in my opinion. Also, based on having a sole operator is something that I mentioned twice in there. This is the first SPE, I think, that is being pitched by one person. I didn't know that the Dash Live Pool meant that this was the team at Live Pool, that there was another developer. I just saw Nico Dash Live Pool and figured it was one person. But that to me, if it's one person pushing an SPE, I would like to see a more detailed breakdown of where the funds are going and why the amounts were chosen. Also, something I didn't mention there is there's a link to the safe for where the funds will be sent. There's 2 people listed, 2 wallet addresses, but the proposal doesn't list who the signers are. I'm assuming one is Nico, but it'd be good to just clarify that, know who will be signing and moving around these funds. But that's pretty much the gist of it.
Yeah, sorry. They are both my wallets. One I believe is a Live Pool wallet itself. The other one is a hot wallet, and they require the other one is a hardware wallet. Sorry, and they require both signatures to do anything, which is more so for security reasons at the moment. But if other core Genesis members of the SPE join, obviously the multisig can expand to more signers, or there can be a guardian of the core team as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, again, I do think this will pass because there's a lot of LPT sitting in the treasury, and why wouldn't it go to something like this? It's, I think, very important. But I'm looking at the proposal as a whole. I'm going through line by line, and I'm looking at it from the structure of the proposal and what is left to speculation and what will actually come of it once it's pushed live. That's what we're signing into reality. It's not what we think might happen or what might be cool to happen. It's what's written there. So yeah, anyway, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think writing proposals from the Treasury call, I think we got that there's little guidelines on how to write proposals and what should be included. And I think it's also a balancing exercise of not writing 10 pages of what's intended. So there is definitely some things left up to speculation. In my opinion, given that a lot of the pull requests are there and delivered, I think that they risks a lot of the initial technical delivery towards the community. So I thought, in my opinion, that sort of balances out maybe the lack of full length out descriptions or breakdowns in the proposal itself.
Yeah, understood, and I appreciate the polite discourse.
Okay, let's continue on. Anyone else have any comments or questions? Like I said, there's some in chat I'll get to, but we'll keep going with audio if anyone wants to hop in with questions.
I do. Nico, I quickly read the proposal. Which are the bits that you aren't going to open source?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Of the code associated with this proposal, which parts of that code are you not going to open source?
What will be not open source is
Yeah, what
the
will be open? Which parts won't be?
yeah. So what won't be open source is the chat LPT app itself in full. So that means, all its database interactions, payment provider interactions in the future. There will be a bare bones version of that open source, and bounties will be for other developer relations influencers to create open source demo applications as well, or example tutorials. The other part that will be not open source is the proprietary gateway that we will run. So what this will be is basically an expansion of the OpenAI API middleware that's listed. And it's basically just slapped on with a payment provider, tracking usage, API key authentication. The reason why that's not open source, I think it's kind of an opinionated thing on what you want to use for authentication, payments, etc. But all the other stuff is open source. So the middleware server itself that you could run on a gateway today, that mimics the OpenAI API and being able to use it with its JavaScript package, that's all possible. But if you want to add payments to it or authentication, that's basically on anyone building that to add it themselves.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay, we'll continue on. Anyone else have any questions for Nico? We did have some questions in chat. Pauly B says, general question around price. I think he means volatility is pretty drastic. Price can double in no time. How is this overcome for payouts of grants? Should grants be submitted with ranges in mind or USDC in mind? Examples like asking 10K LPT at $14, 5K at $28 kind of thing. Does this make sense? Nico, do you want to, I guess the question is just around the volatility of LPT price. I'm assuming for a year-long contract. Do you want to comment on that and what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think it's an open discussion area for any proposal. In this case, the time that, the bulk of the work was done and the proposal was submitted, LPT was trading like around $10 to $11. That's kind of the price point that was chosen. Also, because a lot of the work was done at those price points. How that should be handled, if price increases significantly, I'm not sure. It's also like what makes price increase, I guess. I don't know. I think, yeah, if the price increases significantly, you could look at either two ways. Either you could say, okay, let's have the SPE return part of the funds at like a agreed on price point. Kind of hard to do when a proposal is already pending and we don't really have we kind of haven't talked about it as a community before. On the other hand, you could look at it like, okay, the SPE just now has maybe more resources, and it could also just be a function of, future worth or value of the network given ongoing work of various SPEs, and that they, could then address those additional resources to even further accelerate whatever they're working on. I don't know what the best solution is. This is just, yeah, kind of my perspective on it.
Great. I know Speedy Bird replied to that. Speedy Bird, did you have more clarification on what the question was? I think you mentioned that there's a difference between grants and.
I took it as a general question, not specifically to this proposal. Frankly, I think there is certainly an element of risk. I mean, if the proposal it greatly benefits from it, I think it's just up to, unfortunately, the community could vote, hey, it's a yes, and then the Livepeer token goes up 30% in the last 2 days, which, that quickly is unlikely, but let's say it were to happen, then the community already voted on something that has happened based on token count and whatever conversions they did ahead of time. So I think at that stage, it's up to the SPE or whoever's making that proposal to take the course of action. There's no standard in our community. It's, frankly, I mean, if you're sitting there and the token price went up 50% or 20%, and people are complaining already that it's overpriced, it's a matter of the proposer's reputation that they'll have to determine if that issue is worthy of addressing. But there clearly is no hard fast rule. They can benefit from it. There's a risk profile too in making a proposal and taking on the work. You can take these tokens, they can drop 20%, which, of course, what happened to our last proposal. So I think it's part of the risk here. But of course, there is a public aspect of this where you have to manage the perception of it, and then if there's concerns about it, address them. But I'm not going to speak specifically how it relates to this proposal, because, and as Nico pointed out, this is just discussion. There's no current standard in this community, or even with the proposals as a set in stone approach to this problem.
Yeah, I mean, I'm along with proposals not being standardized yet, and along with how simple the treasury works. Yeah, I mean, early stages of this treasury is going to be tough to navigate. One option could be, as Speedy Bird mentioned, a 30% increase. Like that happened, 2 days ago, right? That literally happened during this proposal. So, it's not only probably gonna it's not only like it could happen, like it's probably likely that the volatility is going to be large. Based on that too, I think like the streaming contract that I deployed, could maybe play a role in this, where as time goes on, the streaming contract is paying out an amount of LPT. If LPT rises to 10x prices over, we the guardians, based on feedback from the community, could say, listen, like, this is now being excessive. This is excessive funding. Maybe the guardians could return the rest of the funds, and it wouldn't be upon the goodwill of the SPE to do it, because it's easy to say now that an SPE, oh well, we're so good-hearted that if LPT 10x's, we're going to give some back to the treasury, when the treasury has 500,000 LPT sitting there ready to go, right? So it's it goes both ways, but yeah, planning out a year based on LPT price today is already really, really difficult. And that's why I've always stepped back and said pricing the treasury in US dollars is not only difficult, but in my mind, it's kind of the incorrect way to look at it. For me personally, it's more like ownership. We're giving away ownership in a network for people to build in it, right? And ownership is, it goes up and down, right? So
Well, I mean, as much as I'd like to talk on pricing structure of this particular proposal, I think the general sense I have of the treasury is it's growing pretty steadily. We're not drawing it down to zero by spending money on silly, asinine things that nobody wants. There's absolutely zero interest and zero discussion and zero demand. And this is not like we have a line of 1,000 developers chomping at the bit for proposals and to get paid to do work. So for this community to, I guess, limit or capitate payment based on, you know, a sense that something is extremely exaggerated in price or grossly overpaid, and they get a big upside on it. On top of that, I think it may be kind of looking at the grass and not really the forest, because we want to attract people to come and work here and build on this network. So if you see other communities where they're paying handsomely people to do work, I would think that would attract more engineers, more minds, creative minds, whatever types of people we need to move things forward. So I would think it would be premature to try to structure the risk reward profile in the official treasury proposal process for either side, the proposer or the proposee, at this stage, given that dynamic.
Yeah, I agree. I think what it basically boils down to for me is if the SPE is long term aligned with the network, then it should also be able to share in that upside. I think what you mentioned about attracting talent is definitely true. Um, with being of course a founder at Tendrise as well, I'm pretty close to the hiring market for protocol engineers or smart contract developers or whatnot, and it isn't cheap. Like the good talent, you can easily pay upward of 200K base salary a year plus tokens, and those people are not going to work somewhere for a 50K payout from the treasury in LPT that might go down 50% over the course of a year. And I think those are things we should take into account as a community as well. That we should, be able to attract good talent to the community, as Speedy Bird mentioned.
Yeah, and the demographic I live in, 200K a year plus benefits is not going to get you a high-end engineer. Not even close.
Damn, Speedy Bird, where are you?
No, it's
I
true
go
what
to
he
live.
says. Like, yeah,
I mean,
especially
you
like
architect level, like very senior architect, who can work in multiple different disciplines. I mean, don't even put Web3 on there because it's rather esoteric. If you were going to say we need someone who knows how to build, a enterprise scale application that includes AI and big data pipelines and all that, you're talking $400,000-$500,000 a year.
yep,
Yeah, definitely. No,
totally agree.
I was making a joke, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
no. Don't get me wrong. Like, no, it's not cheap. No, don't get me wrong. I was just a jab. I don't know.
I mean,
Comment.
I don't wanna, I don't, my comments are just generally how I view proposals, and the treasury. I'm not specifically speaking to Nico's proposal in terms of my sense of things. But I think it applies broadly, which means it should apply to his as well as anyone else's. So I
Quick
wouldn't
comment.
read between the lines here. I'm saying one thing or another about his particular proposal in terms of overall, the total amount of tokens he's requesting. I'm just saying in general, we shouldn't look at it like how how cheap could I go get this service for? That's the wrong way to look at it.
Just a comment from me on this. Like, we're currently thinking a lot about how to, of course, grow the ecosystem and the builder pipeline. So, Speedy Bird, Nico, if anyone here has thoughts on that, reach out to Rich or I. And that's Rich, not Rick. I'm just kidding. But yeah, reach out to Rich or I. I'm thinking about this a lot too, of just like how do we, get more quality folks to be interested not only on in the treasury, but also for grants and other opportunities in the ecosystem. So, yeah.
That's very unfortunate, as I just shared my thoughts with Rick on that like 2 days ago.
Oh no way. Rick will have to give me the lowdown.
All right, we'll continue.
I think you know, the one, as I'm sitting here, I think the one thing that we might want to consider for future is, you know, we cannot necessarily put a clear value on people's time. You can look at the team's reputation and their expertise, maybe get a sense of their geographic area, what's fair to pay them for the work, and then generally how you would perceive the value of the work. But there are a number of variables in that equation, and you may not have all the actual data points to put it in there and come up with your own solution. But as far as infrastructure and cost of infrastructure, those things are a little more straightforward to price out and get a clear sense of what it would cost. And since we were talking about this proposal before we got off on this track on this topic of them in general and the costs of them and how does it work if the token price fluctuates, I would say I do think my main areas of concern on this proposal are in those categories that Authority Null pointed out, right? I do think it's a large sum to be requested for the effort. And I hear that there's quite a bit of possibility of doing things in the future, but they're vague. And the infrastructure pieces and the 5,000 LPT for infrastructure and the 5,000 for grants, those are very vague. And, we can try to dissect that here further than we've already done in the forums, or we can just discuss the element of if we want to improve upon proposals and the treasury process, maybe we state those components should be a streaming contract. And here is what we consider fair pricing for hosting various services. Because again, like 5,000 LPT to run something, if you run it for 6 months, I can't see how you would even spend that. So, I mean, it's a very large sum unless you're going to have a very strong global presence, and none of that's really itemized here. So though that would be an easier area for opportunity to improve upon in future proposals without getting mired in this is how I do software estimation, and the quality of what I deliver is higher than what you do. So your estimating is wrong. And so my price is higher and you don't understand. Like that's a very difficult area to really come to a point where everyone's going to feel like we have clarity and a good model. I mean, big enterprises still can't even figure out how to price a feature, So I think though, again, just to cut back to my point was, I think the infrastructure piece may be easier to quantify and put in a box should we feel that that's something that needs to be done for future proposals.
One thing I'd add to that, like the cost for infrastructure and subsidizing demand, it's not spent the day that the proposal is accepted, right? It is a fund that is available to draw from for the SPE that it does quarterly budget reports on. And as mentioned, if the funds after, let's say, 6 months or a year of evaluation are deemed to be too much, they can be returned to the treasury. If there's still 300K sitting in the treasury, whether those 3,000 LPT are sitting in a multisig or in the treasury, then that doesn't really matter or make much of a difference, I think. But it is really hard to price beforehand, because if you are subsidizing a service, you don't want to get into a situation whereby you have a sudden surge of demand and you can't subsidize it anymore and you lose those users. So that's why I think it's better to ask more upfront and do transparent reporting on how much you exactly spend, and then according to feedback and observations adjust down the line, rather than do it upfront.
Yeah, I think there's rational statements what you're making, stating here. Obviously, there are all alternatives that have been put forward before versus the trust me bro approach. But in this case, I'm again suggesting it's in my opinion more than necessary. I think there are ways to manage that demand spike should it come that you're suggesting. And in general, that element isn't the a huge part of your overall proposal. It is a piece. It's not a small, insignificant piece, but it's not the biggest spend. And I think if this is an area where it keeps coming up, we can certainly find a way to incentivize people to build out infrastructure without relying on actors coming forward and just with the trust me bro approach. And in your case, you're well known in the community. You've been here, on and off through the years. So it's not so much who is this guy? Where is he going to run off with the money? Maybe there's a small element of that, but I don't think that's really influencing my opinion. I'm not looking at it that way with you, but so anyway, that's my thoughts. I don't really think I have much more to add. I think if we were to start arguing about or discussing the points of your total request, we're probably not going to get anywhere. So I think that's all I can add here to talk about with this proposal.
Great contribution. Thank you, Speedy Bird, for sharing that. That's awesome.
Sure.
Okay, let's continue on. Any other questions or comments for Nico?
Yeah, if nobody else has a question or comment, I kept a little bit quiet because I already had a lot of discussions with Nico. I was very happy when he told me that he wants to do the LLM roadmap, because I think it will be a really valuable addition to the Livepeer network, because especially because it can be combined with a lot of other pipelines. Also, that was also requested by the startup plans, and yeah, I'm looking forward to having LLMs on the network. And apart from that, also, I want to let you guys know that Rich is working on having clearer guidelines for SPE proposals with steps, so that people have a better way how to write a proposal, how to submit the proposal. And if you guys have any feedbacks on that, just share them in the governance channel.
Very cool. Any other comments or questions? Great. I do have one last item that I did write down halfway through Nico answering one of the questions, and it was around the ability to spread the LLM across multiple GPUs, because the model, I guess, takes whatever over 100 gigabytes of VRAM. Nico, could you elaborate? Is that a possibility that we can have LLM inference amongst multiple GPUs on the network, and how would that look?
Yes, how would that look? So there are libraries, there are tools that already do this. Like, it's quite unfathomable to think that, a provider like ChatGPT or like OpenAI rather doesn't do this in-house, doesn't like distribute the compute across hosts and load balance it. So it is definitely possible. To do it in a context of Go Livepeer, it's probably not as trivial. Do you have it across multiple different hosts? I mean, the multi-GPU thing for LLMs on one host, it's enabled by default. Across hosts, if you take into account a pseudonymous network, it gets a little harder, but it is a critical component to make verification work. And that's why that research is actually so interesting. I've talked to Rick about this quite a bit. But once you can distribute a model across multiple orchestrators, let's say, there is a sense of progressiveness of, let's say, input, but also some things that need to stay the same across different layers of a model. This kind of in transformer models called attention. Although there are other metrics available, and you could then basically check work from other orchestrators that have other parts of the model that they run. You can check whether the outputs based on the inputs that they get sort of matches the ones for the layers that you run, not on terms of like output level, but on terms of like, and this gets very technical, but whether the distribution of attention for important tokens, which, you know, yeah, not going to go into it in detail, but whether that matches, you can build sort of fast quote unquote verification mechanisms. And that's why it's a fun and interesting research area that is definitely possible, but just in the context of Go Livepeer is definitely a challenge. But I think if the LLM SPE can sort of give a kickstart to that, to do it in a quote unquote trusted environment, then maybe that could get us, you know, somewhere already.
I think that's a really.
By the way, verification of distributed or decentralized inference, you would probably be the first network to solve it. But I think it needs a combination of various techniques, and one is distributed compute.
I think someone posted like in a chat about Exo Labs. Like they're doing the same thing, but they're not in like NVIDIA or anything. I think it's just Mac OS, I think. I don't know if someone wants to check that out.
Is it that one that lets you distribute your model across like your tablet and your iWatch?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, I was gonna look into it because it seemed pretty fun. But yeah, it runs on what's the Mac thing called again? It's I don't remember. But yeah, it probably doesn't run with CUDA.
Yeah, it's not yet for CUDA. I think it's just for
Yeah, there's like even other things like PyTorch distributed is a part of the PyTorch library that also allows you to do this. You can basically spin up through the command line your model on different hosts, and it will sort of run in a master and slave mode.
Yeah, thank you so much for that point, Nico. Yeah, I think this also brings us to an important point between, I think, how the SPEs will work together. And I think that's important to understand. Similar to the Cloud SPE, we view Nico's group as a core partner in this end. And I think a lot of the things that Nico told me, we had a lot of discussions in person, could really benefit also the AI subnet. And I think there could be a really close collaboration between the two groups, for example, in this point of distributed compute around multiple models. How can you run big models on one GPU and the LLM pipeline, because it's a little bit more distinct. There would be an ideal two use case to test out these cases compared for the more media-centric pipelines, and also the more the core network that the ASP is currently working on. So just wanted to clarify that as well.
You mentioned a lot about the research that's involved in spreading the models across multiple GPU. I don't know if that was part of your proposal, and I missed a big chunk of this water cooler because I was running around. So, as I stated in chat, you know, one of my concerns with the proposal was, you know, the supply side. You know, how will orchestrators be able to participate in in this SPE if we're unable to run the models, or do we have to build specific hardware? If you're running a custom gateway, how do other orchestrators get to participate, especially considering the orchestrators in this community is funding? I didn't think I saw any chat in the water cooler about that topic. So
there is probably demand for both large and small models. You can perfectly run a model with 8 billion parameters on, you know, a normal GPU. I think a 24 gigabyte GPU would be able to run it. Those would be for smaller tasks. For larger models, yeah, if you want to run Llama 3.1 with 405 billion parameters right now, I doubt there's any orchestrator on the network that can currently pull that capacity. You'd need, I don't know, 8 100s in one machine or more. I think it's like 400 gigabytes of VRAM. So that's why the goal for the SPE is not to be able to distribute a model across multiple GPUs. We just anticipate that if we want to compete with centralized incumbents, we probably need to be able to run such a large model, and that would then entail being able to distribute it across multiple GPUs or multiple hosts with multiple GPUs even. And that's kind of what then leads to that research. It's not because we think it's like necessarily super interesting. Obviously, it is super interesting, but it's more from a demand orientation perspective and what we anticipate that some initial pain points or requests would be to be able to compete with centralized providers.
I haven't looked at your code recently. Are you able to switch out the model to a smaller model? Is it just the model name that needs to be swapped out and the rest of the pipeline you've built will work with that?
Yep.
Okay. Because I think the 70 billion parameter model is unlikely to be distributed across GPUs and networks and still produce enough tokens per second to be highly useful at scale. So it's more likely people will need to run a smaller model, which of course you have to take with it what comes the lower quality output. But these smaller models, 7 billion, like you said, you can fit that on 24 gig GPU, a 3090, 4090, no problem. You won't be running anything else, but especially on 3090. But they produce reasonably good output. Use cases will determine what model is going to be useful for the demand, because as I said, these smaller models can output sufficient information, assuming you have a good context window that you're able to give it at least a few shot prompt example. So I guess what I'm saying is I think the 70 billion parameter models probably are not going to be viable in a distributed network at this stage with the state of the industry in general and the infrastructure available and the latency and all that. However, I think, like you said, you could run it on a local machine if you had enough GPUs and could split it across those GPUs. So I would assume that would be the priority, just to run it in distributed mode, which is pretty straightforward. Now, the research is interesting, as you set out, but I have doubts that it will play out in a way that is a scalable solution that can also output enough tokens per second to make it useful.
Yeah, there are trade-offs there, probably, more than likely. Whether it can still be useful, I think that's something to determine. If we're all gonna keep writing this in Python, yeah, probably not gonna work. You'd probably have to write it, or at least a networking stack in, a bit more efficient language. But yeah, I think 70 billion parameters, therefore, which is currently you could run it today. It's the demo app supports it. I think it's a good middle ground to start. And as you say, demand will sort of show by itself which models are useful, and whether that's going to be, a lot of small LoRa optimized small model agents, or like a big model. I think, yeah, that's for the future to decide.
Yeah, one of the challenges of the bigger models is that if it consumes a ton of VRAM and orchestrators are looking at demand, that the supply side might get constrained because they might rather run some of the diffusion models rather than LLM, because the demand is already there, or there's more demand. Let's say at this point, it's not really they're still in the same universe of scale of demand at the moment. But I'd say that it would be more attractive as an orchestrator to run a diffusion model and maybe one other smaller model on a GPU that's getting hits per day versus LM's not. So obviously there's a chicken and an egg problem that's here with regards to how much demand can come, and if demand comes, will there be supply? I think that's another notion embedded in what Mike was saying. It's a challenge. You have to run this, and then there's no demand, you're going to turn it off. So if demand starts coming and it sees that we're not able to respond as a network with that capability, that presents a challenge. And that's not a challenge for you, Nico. I think that's just a broad challenge for this community.
No, definitely. And that's why I think Livepeer Inc. used to rent out like a couple hundred GPUs as at least as burst capacity just for transcoding for Studio, to meet that and not have users churn. But it's definitely an interesting point that you make.
Well, I guess I'll ask more explicitly. Will there be code modifications made to the AI runner or a new AI runner created that's going to be documented and available for orchestrators to run if they wanted to participate in the selection of your custom gateways, LLM SPE?
It's not custom, the gateway. I mean, we'll run a gateway that serves LLM requests for the application and the API, but it works with the standard Go Livepeer software, the standard AI runner. The PRs are all intended to just be merged in the Livepeer repos. So yeah, it's just the default stuff.
Yeah, and to quickly add to that, we are working on custom containers that could allow people to run this workflows, for example, this LLM workflow in a way that is more efficient. Additionally, we do, as the AISP, we do spin up base capacity to ensure that the network is performant while it scales. And so it really is. We have to see how the demand becomes for the LLM stack, and also if demand comes, then and fees come on the network, then people will put the GPUs on there. We also work with server providers to make it more easy to offload their capacity that they're not using at a given time. And I think then you could also maybe see if there is demand, if there's enough fees, you could see a bigger server GPUs being put on the network too. Yeah, to serve the demand, but that's all. We have to see how that unfolds.
Right. All right. We've covered quite a bit. Any last comments or questions from either Nico or anyone else around the LLM SPE? All right. Cool. Well, we've been at this for about an hour and 35 minutes. I'd like to thank Nico for coming on and having some time to go over the SPE and get peppered with questions about it. I think it's really beneficial for the community to be able to have this open discussion around the proposal and its goals and help navigate this new kind of exciting era of the early stages of the treasury, especially because it's a truly decentralized treasury where there is no finance team with Livepeer Inc. that's guiding it, or some sort of DAO that has master control over the treasury. We're in a very interesting and unique position of having a truly decentralized treasury. So organizing, creating, and developing the proposals and vetting them early stages are going to be really difficult. There's been heated debates in the past between individuals about the proposals, about different proposals. I really just ask everyone to just really use a calm level, of respect and gratitude for people in the community, and to go forward constructively. I don't really know how to say this. Like Nico, I've met Nico in person. Nico is a great person, highly valuable contributor. Nico's been around a long time, but there are some times where conversations have gone negative or have been tough to kind of have that open type of conversation in the past. So I want to encourage everyone to keep coming to the water cooler chats, to keep building and building these proposals in public, and keep a really positive outlook on things, because it can get out of control quickly if there's any type of personal vendetta or personal attacks that anyone feels in the community. So myself, Nico, everyone else in the community that is involved with these proposals, please keep things civil and keep moving forward. Thank you all for joining this water cooler. I actually have to go, as well as I know other people have already said they had to go. But either way, I do appreciate your time, effort, and everything else. And once again, thank you, Nico, for coming and answering these questions.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for those final comments. Very valuable.
Very cool. Okay, everyone, thank you for coming and making Livepeer the open and decentralized video infrastructure network of the world, the #1 DPIN, and the master of all crypto. I don't even know where I'm going with this. All crypto communities. I love seeing you guys all here. Thank you for coming. We'll see you all next week. Cheers. Oh, and by the way, Varies, there is a recording going to be posted. So if anyone wants to review this or follow along, please watch the recording. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Bye.
See you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Good afternoon.